I will give the floor to Maria Pavlova. Maria is from Moscow. She's working at the Primakov Institute of World Economy and International Relations. So she focused on memory, on memory policy, on relation between Russia and Poland. And what is interesting, she points out how monuments plays a role in what I should say international diplomacy, but also inside the Polish society where heavy discussion took place. So Maria, you have also the floor for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation and for giving the floor. So I'm going to talk about the war with the Soviet monuments that is going on in modern Poland, and this started around 5 years ago. And to start with, I would like to very briefly go through the methodological approaches that are used by Russian and by Polish scientists to study this case. Usually, of course, the two classical approaches are used. The first is one by Timothy Snyders, who showed the two types of collective memory, mass memory, that is the collection of large number of individual memories, and national memory or official memory, that is defined as the organizational or organized from the government, from the officials memory of the nation. Also, we try to use the approach by Estonian scientists Karsten Bruggemann and Andreas Keiskamp that started this wars of memory or historical wars in the Baltic states, and that suggests to use the dichotomy of liberator versus occupier. So by talking about the two different kinds of narratives. On the one side of this memory is the ethnic Estonian or just generally Baltic memory, and on the other side there is the historical narrative of Russian minorities still living in the Baltic states, or more generally pro-Soviet or pro-Russian groups. But talking about the Polish case, it is also essential to use the approach that was suggested by Eva Ockman. And she argued that using this dichotomy between liberators and occupiers, talking about the Soviet memorials, or the dichotomy between mass or individual memory and national memory, usually puts the scholars into danger of reproaching without any critique and critically these perceptions of national memory and national debates on Soviet history and on Soviet sites of memory. And talking about Poland, it is essential to use also the local memory approach and to talk about the local collective memory, because Poland is a very decentralized state. It, of course, has a very huge influence of local community and local memories on national communities. So I'm trying to unite all these approaches in my study. And talking about going although very briefly through the legal foundations of contemporary decommunization in Poland. Of course, general decommunization began after 1989, and Poland witnessed already 2 waves of decommunization of public spaces, but the last wave started in 2016, and the Polish officials, the ruling right nationalistic and conservative country that is called Law and Justice, or Prawo i Sprawiedliwość in Polish language, it passed almost unanimously a special law in April 2016. The law on the prohibition of propagating communism along with other totalitarian regimes. So it also actually said that fascism and communism are the same for Poland, and so prohibited both of them. And in 2017, a special amendment to this law was also passed by the parliament, and this amendment extended the implementation of this law to Soviet monuments, commemorative plaques, sculptures, and symbols that were situated in public spaces. And Polish State Institute of National Remembrance, that is now in charge of creating this new national official memory and new official history of Poland, prepared a special list of over 400 Soviet monuments and memorials all over Poland that fulfill the criteria of dismantling, and the majority of them were destroyed by the year of 2019 and 2020. Here I have some pictures representing how these public Soviet places and memorials looked like and how do they look now. So just with the time difference of 1 or 2 years in different parts of Poland. The last one shows us the place in Warsaw, one of the Central Soviet memorials in Warsaw. So what were the consequences of this policy? One of the most evident effects, of course, was the bilateral international Polish-Russian conflict, although studying the documents and that were used while the Polish government prepared this law, it seems that this effect was not quite foreseen by the Polish officials. But the conflict started immediately, because the positions of Polish and Russian officials differ a lot. So Russia says that the destruction of this monument violates international treaty of 1994 that makes Poland to keep and proper maintain memorial and resting places of Soviet soldiers and Soviet civilians. And the Polish stance is that this treaty protects only actual burial sites and cemeteries and doesn't apply to monuments without graves, or to those monuments to the Red Army or to the Soviet soldiers that were constructed not within the borders of the cemetery, but in different public places in Polish cities and towns. So this is how this debate looks like, and it's going on till from 2016 till nowadays. So the Polish officials say that they do not violate any international treaties, but the situation is not so clear-cut. Firstly, because there are a lot of cases of vandalism on the Soviet cemeteries, and we lack any evidence of some stable persecution and investigation of these vandal cases by the Polish officials. And the second moment that is much more important is that the question of the burial sites that are situated underneath such monuments. For example, this Chanka memorial that I have here was the monument or memorial to the Red Army that was constructed over the fraternal mass grave here of Soviet soldiers, and the Russian side argued that among 20 remnants of 20 Soviet soldiers were still underneath this memorial, and so that was regarded as the direct violation of the treaty. Even in the Polish interpretation of the Polish side. But on the other hand, except this international conflict, such cases as Trzcianka memorial cases provoke the domestic Polish debate within Poland in different Polish cities and towns. And the first question of this debate was the question of the respect for the dead, because Poland represents itself as one of the most Christian modern countries in Europe, and Polish officials in its political program regularly evoke the Polish Christian tradition of respecting the cemeteries and the place of burial. And so it was not in the interest of the ruling party to be accused of undermining this belief and undermining the values of the Polish nation, especially as the ruling party represents itself as a conservative and Christian and respecting the traditions of Christian Polish nation. So from these debates, there is also ongoing discussion in Poland whether to demolish the Soviet monuments, a part of which can be situated over the mass graves of Soviet soldiers, or to relocate them. And even the question of relocation also provokes this debate, because it's still seems for some local Polish communities as disrespect, for the buried. Of course, this case of Chanka Memorial also aggravated the Polish-Russian bilateral relations, as it was already regarded as deep in South, not only by the Russian officials and Russian media propaganda, but the Russian society and Russian opposition party, because it also it was already not about their monuments, but about their graves. But apart from that bilateral conflicts, there is a range of different debates within Poland as well. And so I just briefly going through the main lines of this Polish local conflicts. So after the debate over the respect for the dead and respect for cemeteries, here goes the conflict over Soviet monuments that serve as tourist highlights, because in many Polish small towns and villages, there's monuments to the Red Army or to the Brotherhood of Arms between Polish Army and Soviet Army. They serve as the symbols, the main symbols, main tourist attractions, and the center of public and symbolic life of these places. So the third one is the conflict over monuments as symbols of local history and opposition to Warsaw. And here we have a very interesting case of Katowice, that is the capital of Silesian region. And Silesia, as modern Poland, is regarded as quite opposing to the central government and to Warsaw region, that as Silesia tries to gain some ethnic and some more political autonomy, as Silesians regard themselves as a separate nation from Poles. And so in Katowice, the debate was going on over the monument to Jerzy Ziętek. He was a famous Polish politician of the communist epoch, the general that was Polish by his ethnicity, but who supported the Red Army in the Second World War, and later in the communist Poland, he represented Silesia to the government of People's Republic of Poland. And in Silesia, he is regarded as the politician that practically the one politician that dedicated his life to developing the region. Practically all Silesian infrastructure, all cultural places, cultural objects in modern Silesia were developed by him and under his rule. In this conflict, Silesian authorities and local authorities and Silesian communities say that yes, he was a communist, but he's our communist, and Warsaw and central government does not have any right to dictate us what to do with our regional monuments. It's not
3 minutes, please.
And the last case that I'm going through is also the conflict over the communization of the public places that are situated on the former German territories that became part of Poland in 1945. And this is the case of Legnica, the city that is situated on the Polish-German border, and that has been ruled by Poles, by Czechs, by Germans throughout its history. But after 1945, it became a Polish city, and moreover, it became the headquarters for the Soviet Northern Group of Arms, and got the name Little Moscow. So that was also the touristic representation of the city. And what is interesting here is the ongoing debate between the Soviet narrative that is supported by the society and the inhabitants of Legnica. And actually, they also say that thanks to the liberation and thanks to the operations of the Red Army. This Polish city was returned to Poland after the Second World War. And the narrative of the modern Polish government that says that Legnica is Polish, but it's a part of Polish medieval history and it doesn't have to do anything with the Soviet past, although Poland gained this territory thanks to the Soviet rule. And this case also provokes unforeseen conflict of Poland with Germany. Yeah? That is quite paradoxical, because if Polish local community rejects the Soviet history of this city, so it has to reject also gaining of this territory, and here it confronts the German historical memory of Germans resettling from the Western Polish territories after the Second World War. So in conclusion, just very brief remarks. The first moment I would like to point out is that the decommunization and the rewriting of history, especially of the history of the Soviet period, is now kind of raison d'etre of modern Poland, and of constructing a new official historical narrative of quite nationalistic Poland. The second thing is that this new policy of decommunization and war on Soviet memories takes away from the local community a great amount of their local administrative power, and that evokes conflicts not only over the touristic and symbolic meaning of the Soviet monuments for Polish cities, but also the conflicts on the in the political sphere. And the third moment that is also quite important, especially for the bilateral relations between Poland and Russia, is that paradoxically, while Poland is rejecting the communist period and trying to erase the memory of this communist period from this new national history of Poland, it does not reject the territorial gains that Poland was given after the Second World War. And though devastating this Soviet narrative, unfortunately, the Polish government and the Polish officials still are not able to offer any alternative memory that would reintegrate the Polish territories on the new basis. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very also interesting papers. Two questions from Lana and Tiana. They pointed out that also in former Yugoslavia, there were some monuments that were also the Russian interfere, and they were asking how could you interpret the role and the action of Russian in the current context of Russian politics today. And they also asked if there is a specific action on monuments dedicated to politicians, but is there any difference towards monuments dedicated to soldiers, to civilian victims? So is there a typology of monuments that are more targeted or to replace? And this is very interesting because here we have a state intervention. It's not only activists that are acting against monuments, it's the state.
Okay, thank you for the question. So talking about this, the different approach to the monuments of Polish communists, Polish communist politicians, the monuments to the Red Army and the monuments to the soldiers. So actually there is a kind of unanimous view of all Polish society towards the so-called monuments of gratitude to the Red Army that were really constructed just in public places without any ties with the cemeteries and the places of burials. So this was just the real examples of Soviet propaganda, very looking very similar in different Polish towns. So actually there is no conflicts over destructing these monuments. As for the monuments to the Polish communists, this is probably the most difficult line of this domestic Polish conflict because still the communist epoch in Poland is also regarded as the part of Polish national history, especially because socialistic movement in Poland started before the Second World War, and the Polish socialists were one of the most influential in the first half of the 20th century. So decommunizing, the monuments and dismantling the monuments to Polish communists and to Polish socialists is not actually is the main line of this conflict. And of course, the most difficult question is the question of these memorials over the burials, and over the cemeteries, and these acts of vandalism probably constitute also the main problem in the bilateral relations, because this vandalism is organized by the individuals or by the radical nationalist groups, but it's kind of mutually supported by the government, because there are no processes of investigation of these crimes, practically no public results of this investigation, and so of course it provokes the questions about whether the government supports even the vandalism, not only the destruction of these monuments according to the law. And talking about, if I got it right, about the first part of the question was about the bilateral relations.
Yes, and about what is it part of a new Russian contemporary? What's the place?
Yeah, of course, it's this problem, of course, takes the central place in Russian foreign policy and Russian historical policy, because it touches the problem of the Second World War and the Great Patriotic War of the Soviet Union. And this war is now the center of the modern Russian historical memory, as well as the national one, this collective memory, as well as the official propaganda and official organized national memory. So, of course, this is the central topic of all state propaganda and media news. And it has been said that, of course, we have all other problems in all other different spheres in bilateral relations with Poland. We're talking about Ukraine, about international relations, about USA, and many more. But the Russian foreign minister says that until this decommunization of Polish public states stops, there would be no reopening of the Polish and Polish-Russian bilateral relations. So this problem is actually the central problem of this of our relations for now.
Okay, and just are monuments dedicated to politicians, are they more targeted than monuments to civilians? Is there any difference in the spot?
Monuments to civilians, you mean to Polish civilians there are no monuments, only to the Polish communists, who supported that were the part of the system. And talking about the monuments to simple soldiers, soldiers of the Red Army, there were also some acts of vandalism, for example, over the monument of the Red Army soldiers that actually tried to investigate the situation in Warsaw during the Warsaw Uprising of 1944. And that was also a great paradox because the official Polish propaganda now says that the Soviet Union did not do anything to support this Warsaw anti-fascist uprising, that the Soviet army was just standing on the other bank of the river and watching how Hitler was bombing Warsaw. And on the other hand, this only monument to the soldiers of the Red Army that were heroes of supporting this Warsaw Pride and that tried to cross this river and take some guns, some military products to the Poles. This monument was also firstly vandalized and then destructed. So talking about this, it's practically the same.
Okay, I would like to thanks once again the three speakers for those, the four speakers, sorry, for those very, very interesting and stimulating papers.